Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We meet again, insyaAllah, with learning more on the hadith of Rasulullah SAW and the book of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Let's start off the intention for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence in the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, continue on with the Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم ارزقنا يا ربي فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافيتي يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل واهدنا إلى سواء السبيل اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا وعرفنا بالعلم النافع وانفعنا به أنفسنا وأهلنا وأوطاننا وديارنا وجميع المسلمين يا إله العالمين الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله الحمد لله. Right, we continue on with our lesson. Right, our legacy, we are still at Saviors of the Islamic Spirit, book 2. We are with Ibn Taymiyyah, and it's Hafiz Ibn Taymiyyah, 661 after Hijrah. So 1263 to 1328. All right, we did quite a few things last week. We went through his studies and his efforts in doing things, and we also went through some of the situations in Damascus. Right, move on to the Tatar attack on Damascus. We did this some time ago also, but we are going through again. Intelligence in regard to the projected, in a different look, actually, in different side story. Intelligence in regard to the projected attack on Syria by Gaza and the Tatar ruler of Iran and Iraq had begun to pour in the beginning of 699 after Hijrah. So that's in the 13th century, mid-13th century, as we saw it. But in Islamic calendar, it is towards the end of the 7th century, century in the Islamic calendar. All right, so the Tatars are attacking. It was reported that Tatar forces are planning to capture Damascus. With the impressions of terror still fresh in the minds of the Muslims, the population of border districts like Halab and Hama took to flight. We do remember, we went through that Ibn Taymiyyah's family also ran to Damascus, or one of the refugees from Baghdad to Damascus when the Tatars attacked. So Damascus will be in Iraq, and so now they are moving up north to Syria. So people of these people have had a feel of the kind of terror that exists during the attacks of the Tatars. So the exodus was so great that a horse could be hired for a transport from Hama to Damascus for 200 dirhams, which means it's very expensive, right, to get. Everybody is rushing to run away, and so they pay quite a large sum of money just to get out of Iraq. Now, this is going to be a northern part of Iraq towards nearer to, most probably in Syria also, border districts, Halab and Hama. However, the news that Al-Malik al-Nasir Muhammad ibn Qalawun had left Egypt with a powerful army to check the advance of the Tatar forces enabled the terror-stricken Syrians to heave a sigh of relief. So we went through also the situation in Egypt where you have a few dynasties, you have the Mamluks and such. And so one of the kings from there, right, has decided to attack the Tatars. Egyptian forces which entered Damascus on the 8th of Rabiul Awal were warmly received by the population of the city. So although they were not in, the Muslims are happy that you've got another the king coming down to protect them. Defeat of Qalawun on the 27th of Rabiul Awal 699, the Egyptian and Tatar armies encountered each other in a bloody battle. The operations of war were conducted by both sides in equal vigor, but the Sultan was vanquished and he immediately retreated to Egypt with his remaining forces. So they lost. It's a sad time for the Muslims because the Muslims from Egypt lost to the Tatars. Now Damascus lay open, undefended before the triumphant armies of Ghazan. The entire nobility of the capital, including the Shafi'ites and the Malakites, Qadi, this is the Qadi, the judges of the Shafi'i Madhab and the Maliki Madhab. Religious scholars, the administrators, and the traders took to flight, leaving only the commander of the capital citadel. All right, so everybody ran away when the Tatars entered Damascus. Most people, these are people who are important to the society, right? And they are not willing to stay on. They feel they have their reasons, I suppose, for running away, right? And left the commander of the capital citadel. So only one left. All the communications leading to the city were cut off. Prices increased manifold. Public tranquility was disturbed by the prisoners who broke open the gates of the jail, and loot and arson became order of the day. It's the reality of wars, right? And people who are bad coming out and destroying the environment, the peace of people. So this is again, that's why this is not Islam as we've gone through the hadith last week, right? These kind of things are what Islam is trying to prevent. War, bloodshed, such. But sometimes, well, we have to defend ourselves. The people will come in. Rasulullah also went to war, but not, he doesn't go to war just to attack, right? He has reasons for his wars, and because people are not allowing the message to go to be delivered in a safe environment. The danger of imminent attack by Ghazan added to the chaos and anarchy in the city, which was incapable of putting up any resistance and hopeless of getting relief from any quarter. So that's what it is, right? So they were not able to fight against him. They were not able to get any help. And so there was added chaos with of course, the kind of things that were happening where there's no communication, where things are really so expensive, where there is no ease, everybody's in a state of fear, and lots of robbery here and there. Ibn Taymiyyah meets Ghazan. Ibn Taymiyyah and the remaining patricians of the city then decided that they should lead a delegation of the ulama and other noble men which should meet Ghazan and sue for the peace of the city. All right, sue, of course, not in court, just to call him and to make him think about the importance of giving peace to the city. So why meet Ghazan? Let's look at what happens. The representatives of the city accordingly met Ghazan at Nabak on the 3rd of Rabiul Thani, 699 after Hijrah. Sheikh Kamaluddin ibn al-Anja who accompanied Ibn Taymiyyah in the delegation, has left a memorable account of his meeting with Ghazan. All right, so you've got one, this is Sheikh Kamaluddin, another of the scholars. So we saw that Ibn Taymiyyah went to meet Ghazan with a number of ulama and noblemen. He says, I was with the Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah on this occasion. He set forth to his address to the king of the Quranic verses, the Quranic verses and the traditions of the Prophet enjoining fairness and just conduct. So Ibn Taymiyyah was very brave, you can see that, right, to meet the king and talk to the king about the Quran and the Hadith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His voice gradually rising, he was drawing nearer to the king until his knees were about to touch those of Ghazan who was attentively listening to the Sheikh, but did not appear to be displeased with him. So you can see how brave he is. And he actually moved towards Ghazan until he sat knee to knee with Ghazan, talking about the Quran and the Hadith. But the Ghazan doesn't seem to be angry with him. He was straining his ears as if struck with awe. Now, at this point in time, Ghazan was already a Muslim, but not really a practicing Muslim, as we can see that. At last he asked, who is he? I've never seen a man like him, so brave and courageous. None has made a dent in my heart as he. So after listening to the speech of Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, he was impressed. You can see that, because impressed with the courage of the man to dare to come to his audience and move on to talk to him. And somehow the words and also the courage of Ibn Taymiyyah has left a mark in his heart. So he's saying, like a dent in my heart. Right? Who is he? So he wants to know, who is this man? The Sheikh wasn't introduced to the king. The Sheikh said to the king, you claim to be a Muslim. I have been told that you have with you a qazi and an imam, a sheikh and a muazzin. So he has people to advise him on Islam, qadi, and he's got an imam, he's got a sheikh, right? And there's someone knowledgeable and a muazzin with him. Yet you have deemed it proper to march upon the Muslims. So he says, how come you're a Muslim and yet you attack the Muslims? And his ancestors were not Muslims. We recall we've got Kublai Khan, we've got Genghis Khan, all were not Muslims. I think Genghis Khan was his grandfather. Your forefathers were heathens. So heathens means they worship idols, or they worship all kinds of things, but they always abstain from breaking the promise once made by them. So despite the fact that they are not Muslims, right, they have a certain kind of value in them that they would not break promises. They redeem the pleasures they made, but you violate the word of honor given by you. You trample underfoot your solemn declarations in order to lay a hand on the servants or the slaves of God. Slaves of God. So he's reminding, he didn't talk about Islam. It's very interesting here, because sometimes when you talk to people who have got a certain kind of link, a certain kind of loyalty to their family lineage, in this case talking about his own families who are not Muslims, and yet they can keep their promise, but he himself is not keeping his promise. He violates the word of honor. Being a Muslim, he is supposed to protect other Muslims. And that is one of the conditions, or that is one of the understanding of the pledge that we as Muslims, and we make La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger, is to obey the instructions and teachings of Rasulullah SAW. And yet his action clearly shows that he is not in obedience of his witnessing. His witnessing as wanting to follow, or a witness to take Rasulullah SAW as a messenger, and thus, right, have made a pledge to follow whatever Rasulullah SAW has taught us. So in that sense, he has trampled the declaration in order to lay a hand on the slaves of Allah. Sometimes when we people who declare the Shahada actually does not realize the implication of that Shahada in itself, right? That you have declared that you are a witness to the fact that Rasulullah is a messenger of God. So when you declare him as a messenger of God, messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you accept everything that comes from him because of your first declaration that there is no God but Allah. That means you have to be in obedience and to be a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and your heart is to be inclined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can see that despite being a Muslim, he is not abiding by the teachings of Rasulullah in this case. So Ibn Taymiyyah brought that up to him, made him realize the reality of him being a Muslim. Sheikh Kamaluddin adds that despite Ibn Taymiyyah's remonstrance in a strong language, the king bade him goodbye with the highest marks of respect. People do honor us when we actually are strong in our beliefs, because not many people are out there strong in their beliefs. And when we are brave to come up, to stand for our beliefs, people actually admire us. Inshallah. He even set free on Ibn Taymiyyah's recommendation a good number of the prisoners. So you see that not only he was respectful to Ibn Taymiyyah, he respected, he even agreed to some of Ibn Taymiyyah's recommendation. Ibn Taymiyyah often used to say, only he fears who has a sickness in his heart. So he's saying that he has no fear of Ghazan because his heart is pure. So he has no problem with going to Ghazan to advise Ghazan on his actions. Chief Qazi Abul Abbas, who was also admitted to the imperial presence along with Ibn Taymiyyah, has given some more details of this remarkable embassy. He says, when food was brought before them, Ibn Taymiyyah refused to partake the meals on the ground that it had come, but of the looted property of the Muslims. So he's saying, I'm not eating this food because the money is from the, it's not halal, I'm concerned, because it's taken unfairly or it's taken unlawfully from the Muslims. And so he was very brave in that, also to speak out against the nature of the food. As we've gone through that also, that eating of food which is not halal is very detrimental to our faith and our soul. At last, as Abul Abbas, when the king asked the sheikh to pray for him, he began by saying, Ya Allah, help Ghazan if he has taken up arms to defend your religion. If not, then do whatever you desire with him. So it's a bit worrying, right? If you are to hear that, right? So it's just telling Ghazan, whatever you do, it has to be to defend Allah's religion. So the companions of Ibn Taymiyyah trembled with fear, or else they should be executed because of the sheikh's imprudence. But they were amazed to see the king saying Ameen to his prayer. So here we see a great man, right, and a great king, great in the sense that a very powerful king and very vicious in some sense, because the fact that he does execute people who are rude to him, and yet Ibn Taymiyyah has got no fears whatsoever to declare his concern for the king actually in his dua. Right, and also leaving things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making the king realize that Allah is all powerful and Allah can do everything and anything against him if he doesn't do things right. So when Ibn Taymiyyah returned to Damascus, he was escorted by 300 nobles and chiefs of the Ghazan's army. Although Ghazan had granted amnesty to Damascus, the irregular troops of the invader were spreading terror and deviation in the outlying areas and suburbs of the city. You've got to remember that not all of them were Muslims, and even when they were Muslims, they have not really able to embrace Islam wholly or fully, as mentioned by one scholar that during this time, the scholars actually allowed them to drink khamar, to drink alcoholic drink, because when they are drunk, they stop their vicious acts of raping and massacring people. So it's allowing them to do an evil, to protect, to prevent an even bigger evil. So when they are drunk, they are really drunk, they can't do anything. All right, so they were really, really very, very terrible people, very evil, because some of them, even the Muslims at that time, but not, they were Muslims, but they were still not able to get out of their ways of their barbaric ways. Ghazan had nominated Saifuddin Qabjaq as his deputy over Syria. His forces entered Damascus and demanded surrender of all arms, horses, and wealth concealed by the citizens. So his deputies are still not doing things very right. So they want to be in control. So they remove whatever the citizens had. In this hour of savage license, when every passion was inflamed and every restraint was removed, the precepts of religion seldom influenced the behavior of the newly converted Tatar savages. Maybe we can call them barbarians, savage. But then again, as I was reading this, I do recall the hadith, the verse of the Quran in Surah Al-Isra or Surah Bani Israel, where Allah mentioned that when the Muslims, when the Jews, that was referring to the Jews, the Bani Israel. The Bani Israel, they were abused by the Egyptian under Pharaoh, right? And they were freed from that the clutches of the Egyptian by the Musa, and they traveled to Palestine. And after some time, they gained control, but they became corrupt. And Allah has said that when you are corrupt, Allah will put a more corrupt person to deal with you. So here we see the Muslims, in some sense, are not abiding by the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making mischief and going into very corrupt practices. And we see these Tatars coming in to overcome them, to attack them. Allahu alam, Allah knows best the stakes. Several of the most honorable citizens were surprised and massacred. Now I showed the word. I checked the original book. They used the word surprised. That means they were. I don't think the word surprise is the right translation here. I suspect there's a mistake in the translation. They were what do they call it? When you're attacked, and you were attacked without you're attacked suddenly. You're not surprised. The surprise is a different word that we use. You were taken off guard, that kind of thing, so you can't use the word surprise. There's a term that I just can't get the term, right? So they were attacked by surprise. Right, attack by surprise is fine, but to say you were surprised and massacred doesn't sound good at all. All right, okay, maybe some of you might get the word for us. Yeah, what is it? Ambushed, taken by surprise. Yes, yeah, they were ambushed. Yeah, taken by surprise. Of course, it's taken by surprise. But you would agree with me, the sentence doesn't sound good. And the most honorable citizens were surprised and massacred. Surprise somehow seems quite, surprised by a present, surprised by a party, something like that. Anyway, a large number of innocent, they were ambushed. Definitely, they were ambushed and they were massacred. And a large number of innocent women and children were sold into captivity. Libraries and charitable trusts were extirpated. So this was the way they do things. They were really, really, really vicious. And the malicious Tatar soldiers roamed throughout the city in quest of prey and riches. They don't really behave like humans. We can see when human beings are not under the control or are not obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what happens. They just plunder and destroy whatever is in their way. They take whatever they want to take. And this doesn't look like something we are surprised by, because it happens throughout it happens in all, in whenever there's war and plunder. The commander of the fort, Arjawash, however, refused, under the advice of Ibn Taymiyyah, to open the gates of the citadel to the Tartar chief appointed by Ghazan. So the citadel is the fort. So the one in charge, I remember when the Tatar was going to attack, Arjawash didn't mention his name, because First time they are mentioning his name. He was the commander of the fort, of the citadel. So he didn't open the gates of the citadel, right? It is quite normal for in the old olden days that the people actually live in a fort to protect themselves from being attacked, and they have a gate to the fort. If you all go to Syria, sad to say now we can't go to Syria, you would actually be able to be in this fort where the Umayyad mosque is, and there's gates. You can see the gates of the fort, and you can see the walls of the fort also. All right, so Ibn Taymiyyah told him don't open the gate, so he didn't. So, along with a few other respectable citizens of Damascus, repaired again to seek audience with Ghazan, but he was not allowed to see the king. So the people, normally the king is fine, but the problem would be the supervisors, the commander of the army. They've got their own interests, right? So when they knew that Ibn Taymiyyah has a profound influence on Ghazan, so they didn't allow him to go and see the king. In the meantime, the Tatar forces laid siege to capture the forts. Ballistas were set up around the fort, and the citizens were conscripted for forced labor. So they were all out to attack the fort, to bomb the fort, and the people were forced to do hard work. Ibn Kathir writes that the city gave a deserted look, so as nobody dared to come out of his house except disguised as a Mongol for fear of being obliged to help the Tatar attack on the fort. So they are forced to do work. They are forced to attack the fort. So they all stay indoors. They hide wherever they want. They are able to. So the whole of Damascus was deserted. During a Friday service in the Great Umayyad Mosque, says Ibn Kathir, there were not enough worshippers to make up a single row. Only the brave ones there to come out and pray for Friday prayers. On the 19th of Jamad al-Akhir, Jamad al-Awwal, Ghazan left for Iraq, leaving 60,000 troops under the commander of his deputy. He declared his intention to return with a larger force in the ensuing autumn to complete the unfinished campaign of gaining control over Syria as well as Egypt. So this is Ghazan. Somehow he has not changed much. Now he's going back to conquer Syria and Egypt. After the king had departed, one of the chiefs, Amir Bula'i, started to ransack the surrounding area. So you can see this kind of tragedy happening again, and ransacking and destroying. Vast tracts of land, towns, and cities were devastated. A large number of Muslim children were forcibly taken away from their parents to be sold as serfs, while Bulai himself extracted large sums of money from the Damascenes through general extortion and immoderate fines. All right, so we can see that the deputies are really, really bad. Ibn Taymiyyah decided to meet Bulai to alleviate the misfortune of his countrymen. So this is in Damascus still, right? So the king Ghazan has left Damascus and left it to Bulai. He met Bulai on the 8th of Rajab and was successful in liberating quite a number of the captives, both Muslims and non-Muslims. We are aware that in Syria there are quite a big, there are Christians, Syrian Christians. The Arab Christians, they still stay on as Christians, some of them, and do not convert to Islam. Not all of the Arabs convert to Islam. So there are Christian Arabs, there are Lebanese Arabs, there are Egyptian, there are Christian Arab, Christian Lebanese, Christian Egyptians, and Christian Syrians. Yeah, the Tatars and Mongols are the same people. All right. In the meantime, the news of the Egyptian forces coming to the rescue of Syria was broken by the commander of the Damascus fort. All right, so what does that mean? The commander of the fort, the Damascus fort, is a citadel that is the Ajrawash, is his name, I think, and got news that the Egyptian forces are coming to rescue Syria. No sooner was this announcement made, the Tatar hordes hurriedly retreated from the city, leaving it again without any semblance of administration. So they just left like that, right? So nothing at all, nobody's in charge of the whole city. Arjawash and a few other prominent citizens, including Ibn Taymiyyah, decided to maintain law and order in the metropolis. It's good that there are groups of citizens who are willing to take up the responsibility of maintaining law and order in the city. Ibn Taymiyyah was seen during this period keeping vigil by night and exhorting people to take up arms for their defense. So he was really, really out there. You see that Ibn Taymiyyah is very different from the other scholars that we had. He is involved, right, with the government, is involved with the military, is involved with the people around. These self-appointed guardians of the city also decided to root out the abuses that had flourished during the chief rule of Tatars, the brief rule of the Tatars. So they tried their very best to clean up all the mess that the Tatars has created. The avarice of Saifuddin Kubjuk had prevailed upon him to patronize the sale of wine, which was a source of income to him. Well, Saifuddin Kubjuk seems to be one of the Tatars who were in control, right? And he was greedy for money. He wanted lots of money, so he actually have opened up wine shops, wine outlets. Ibn Taymiyyah toured the city with his friends and students, destroyed every wine cask, bowl, and cup, and punished every drunkard and ruffian in accordance with the law. The courageous action taken by Ibn Taymiyyah was received with approbation and pleasure by all the law-abiding people of the city. All right, so he took the step to remove all the wine stalls, and he punished people who are against the law of Islam. So those who were for him, right, they were happy because they are law-abiding people of the city for his action. Punitive expedition to the hills. The Christians, Batinites, and Ismailites, these are sects that have gone out of Islam. We went across them a few times. Settled in the hilly tracts of Syria, had afforded wholehearted support to the Tatar invaders against the Muslims. They had surprised and attacked the retreating Muslim troops, killed many of them, and looted their provisions. You can see the word surprise is used here as ambushed, right? And attacked the retreating Muslim troops, killed many of them, and looted their provisions. They were in fact a heretic people without faith in any religion, who despised all authority and were used to a semi-independent existence in the difficult terrain out of the reach of arms of law. So they were in the mountains. They are not. They don't want to be under the law, under the previous government, and they don't like the previous government. They don't like the Muslims, right? And they have issues with the way Muslims do things. These all things that cause them to attack the Muslims. A punitive expedition was dispatched under Jamaluddin Apush al-Aftam after peaceful conditions had been restored in Syria to punish the recalcitrant hill dwellers of Ja'ad and Kaswaran. So what is it happening here is that we see that Ibn Taymiyyah and a few nobles, all right, and chiefs have been able to restore order in Syria, in Egypt, in the whole of, not Egypt, sorry, in Syria, in Damascus. Now they go out to attack, to punish those who have created problems for the Muslims. We can't trust these people because if the Tatars comes again, they would be there to support the Tatars. So we have to get rid of them or make sure they are under our control. So Ibn Taymiyyah accompanied this expedition with a large number of volunteers and the people belonging to Hauran. Ibn Taymiyyah exhorted the tribesmen to renew their allegiance to Jamaluddin, follow the precepts of true faith, and return the property despoiled by them earlier. So he asked them to obey the leader, the Jamaluddin, and then to come back to Islam and to give back whatever they have taken. The second Tatar invasion. For 2 years, beginning from Rajab 700 after Hijrah, uncertainty and instability prevailed in Syria. With the report of second Tatar invasion reaching Damascus, people began to abandon their herds and homes. Ibn Taymiyyah started urging people to eschew cowardice, or to get rid of cowardice, stop being a coward and defend their home and honor instead of visiting the capital. So he is trying his very best to encourage them to fight for the religion and not to leave their country, fight for their own home, right, and to defend themselves. He prevailed upon the administration to put a ban on the people living in the city without obtaining its prior permission. So he convinced the administration, that means the government, right, to stop people from leaving without permission. Hardly had the situation been stabilized when the news of advancing Tatar forces reaching a place called Birah was spoken. So they bring news from other places, right? An announcement of jihad, the holy war, was made, and the glad tidings of Sultan Ibn Qalawun's departure from Egypt for the defense of Syria were announced. So people were called for jihad. Hopefully they would come back and fight for Islam. Right? So it's jihad. Of a sudden, a communication was received that the Sultan no longer wanted to come for a second encounter with Tatar. So at first they were happy that Qalawun's Sultan is coming over to help them against the Tatars, but then suddenly he decided not to come and attack the Tatars. It was natural that the people, exasperated by earlier sufferings, resolved to transfer their families and belongings to the more secure places in Egypt. All right. So the people were so frightened, right, and exasperated by earlier sufferings. They had this bad feeling, right? So they did resolve to transfer their families and they moved out to Egypt. Ibn Taymiyyah, however, not only arrested the exodus by his powerful and passionate haranguing, but also met the Egyptian governor of Syria in his camp outside Damascus and persuaded him to oppose the progress of the Tatar army. So you see that he was very, very influential, right? He talked to people. He was very powerful in his message. He was very passionate, and he even talked to the commander of the Egyptian army. So the governor of Syria, Egyptian governor of Syria. The governor and other prominent citizens and religious doctors requested Ibn Taymiyyah to see an audience with the Sultan and urged him not only to send the levies, but conduct the operations of war himself. So they're asking him to go over and meet Qalawun, right? And he went. I went to Egypt and made a spirited appeal to the Sultan for checking the advance of Tatar forces. So we know that Syria was under the Egyptian king. He asked him not to be terrified by the multitude of his foe. Even if Syria had not been a part of your dominion, said Ibn Taymiyyah, it was a duty incumbent on you to have come to its rescue in this hour of danger. Oh, maybe the word is not very good to use the word haranguing, lecturing someone at length in an aggressive and critical manner. Maybe he's aggressive. But somehow the description shows that it's powerful. Let's go back to that sentence and see how he describes it. Whereas angry haranguing. Passionate, so to use passionate haranguing would not be very appropriate, I would say, if that was the definition of haranguing. So basically, he was able to talk. If you use it as passionate, then he, with his passion, right, is able to convince people. If you use it as haranguing, he was really fed up with them, and he just, criticized them and really give them a piece of his mind, and eventually they start thinking. All right, anyway. Ibn Taymiyyah is telling the king, even if Syria was not under you, that means Syria was under them. So it is his duty on you to come to his rescue in this hour of danger. As a Muslim king, right, who have the means, you should come forward and protect the people of Syria. The responsibility of its safety rests on your shoulders, but if you care nothing for its welfare, tell us, and we shall make our own arrangements. He was very firm and very harsh. Not harsh, he was very direct and very sure of what the situation is. We shall select a monarch who would at least defend the land against his enemies. So if you are the Sultan, our Sultan, but if you're not able to do it, then we're going to get another Sultan, a king, right, who will do what is right for us. So Ibn Taymiyyah remained the Sultan for 8 days and at last persuaded him to lead his forces for the defense of Syria. So the king himself went to defend Syria. By this time, Ibn Taymiyyah returned to Damascus. A large number of Damascenes are the people who live in Damascus, has already left the city. Taymiyah's written, the news of Sultan's impending arrival emboldened the people to make preparations for facing the enemy, but the Tatars turned back on this occasion. All right, so very hot situation there. So the Tatars now left Egypt. Sorry, Tatars didn't attack after all that. All right, we continue with our wafi. We did the 12th hadith, ashtiralu bima la yufid. Being busy with something which does not benefit you, of no concern of you, for your things which are not your concern. Being busy with what is not of your concern. And Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu qala, from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said, qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, min husni islamil mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'nihi. Of the good of Islam is that one leaves it what that does not concern him. Hadithul Hasan rawahu Tirmidhi wa ghayruhu hakada. Right, it is a good hadith and it is being it is narrated by Tirmidhi. All right. Rasulullah SAW informed us that the excellence of one's Islam is to leave what does not concern one. This hadith makes clear what brings good in this world and the next. If you're able to do that, then you'll have good in this world and good in the next world. A very simple and short statement from Rasulullah SAW, which means a lot. So it covers the religion, it specifies doing, and it specifies. Actually, it covers what we should do and what we should not do. Right, so it not only says don't do it, but actually it tells us do this. So don't do this, but do this. So this is a great foundation of etiquette. So this one is a foundation of etiquette, definitely. This helps to establish a distinguished society where harmony exists and people stop meddling in the affairs of others. This is the main reason why problems exist in this world, in family matters, among friends, among companies, among whatever. It's all about being involved with things that does not concern you, and because of that involvement, you pull in people all over the place and create all kinds of unhappiness and disharmony. Occupying oneself with that which is not one's is a waste and a sign of weak faith, a waste of time. So if you do things which is not our concern, we are just wasting our time, and it shows that our faith is not strong enough. Turning away from what is of no concern is a path of well-being and success. If you want to be successful, you want to have afiyah, then move away from all that does not concern you. When one of you has perfected his Islam, rewards are immense. So that we went through a hadith in which Rasulullah tells us that when our Islam is good, our actions are good, our rewards will range from 10 to 700. All right, we continue. The heart that is busy with Allah had the exalted turns away from the affairs of the creation that are of no concern. So what is important is that if your heart is always busy with Allah, doing things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will move away from the affairs of the people, the creation that of your not concern. The Muslim who worships Allah as if he can see him and calls to mind that he is close to Allah and Allah is close to him. Now this is our ihsan. Ihsan is, Rukun ihsan is the pillar of Islam which brings out the excellence of a Muslim. And how does it bring out the excellence of a believer, a mu'min? As you know, we move from being a Muslim, then we move on to being a mu'min, right? Because Rasulullah said, when you declare that Allah is your God and there is no God but Allah, you are a Muslim. You decide to submit yourself to Allah and submit to the teachings of Allah. But your belief is still not strong enough. Your belief becomes strong when you really are seen practicing the various injunctions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As a believer, and you start believing in the angels, you believe in the next world, you believe, that's the rukun iman. And you got ihsan. Ihsan is where you strive to do your best. Why? Because who worships Allah, it's not really worship, who be a true slave of Allah, means you're always end up obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you can see Him. And every time you are, even if you know that, even if you can't see Him, it's as if you can see Him, but you know you can't see Him, but you know He's looking on at you. And that is why you feel you feel ashamed of this obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He looks on at you. So you're close to Him. He will not occupy himself with that which does not concern him. He doesn't want to waste his time basically with things that does not concern him. Movies and everything are things which does not have concern for us. He's not occupying himself with that which does not concern him. Is evidence of his truthfulness with Allah, the exalted, and his presence with him. So the fact that he does not get involved with things that does not concern him shows that he is truthful to Allah, the exalted, and his presence, and he is close to Allah. He is always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't like to be seen doing things which is of no concern for him. If someone occupies himself with that which does not concern him, that means he does things which is not his concern, that is evidence that he's not calling to mind his nearness to Allah, the exalted. So it shows that he is not thinking of the fact that he is close to Allah. He doesn't seem to realize that closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he is involved with things that does not concern him, that he is not being truthful with him, that he is not true to Allah, and that his deeds are of no avail, that means his deeds are useless, and that he is lost. Right? So we always ask Allah in our Fatiha every day, Ya Allah, do not cause us to be among the Dhalin, and the Dhalin are those people who are astray. Right? Astray means we think we are on the right path, we're doing things right, yeah, we do lots of good things here and there, but at the same time, we are involved with things which does not concern us. So be very careful on how you live your life so that your life is filled with doing things that really concern you. It has been related from Al-Hasan al-Basri that he said, a sign that Allah has turned away from a slave is that he makes him be occupied with that which does not concern him. So that is a frightening condition to be in, to be always engaged with things that does not concern you. Right, 5 matters that concern a person and matters that do not. So what are these matters that concern you and matters that do not? The matters that concern a person are that which is connected to one's livelihood, such as food, drink, clothing, shelter, and so forth, and that which connected the success of his hereafter. So he needs to work there. It's part of the sunnah of Rasulullah to work, earn money, to bring food to the family, to eat so that he become healthy, so that he can go on doing ibadah, doing things good for the Muslim community. Drinking also is important. Clothing is important. That's part of, and we have a shelter. So these are the most important things for life, right? This is to live life, but it's necessary is this. But at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has reminded us not to be wasteful in the important things in itself, right? I mean, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, al-mubazir in ikhwanu shayatin. The wasteful one is a brother of the shaitan, right? And that which is connected to the success of the hereafter. That means learning religion, reading the Quran, going out there to help people who are less fortunate, right? Bringing Islam to people and things like that. So nothing besides this concerns him. Part of what does not concern a person are worldly objectives that are beyond one's necessities and needs, such as being extensively engaged in the world, having a variety of foods and drinks, seeking rank and positions of leadership, loving praise and commendation from people. So these are the things, right? We are sometimes guilty of having so much food and drink, right? But these are the things which are not necessary. We should tone down, reduce whatever of our life that is just doing things just not necessary, right? Doing things to seek rank and positions of leadership. But of course, there is a need at times for someone to take up leadership to protect the people. So the intention is important, like what Ibn Taymiyyah did is he come forth, right, meet government officials, right, to help improve the condition of the Muslims there and to bring them back to that understanding of the powers and might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you do things to love because you want people to praise you, if you want to commend you, get rewards and everything, and this is not, these are worldly objectives. It is a sign of a Muslim's veracity that he stay away from that. especially if there's something therein that involves compromise or flattery at the expense of his religion. So if you have to compromise your religion, move away from that. That is not what we want. If you are doing this to be flattered, move away from that. So always be conscious of the reasons for your actions. That means your intentions must be for the right reasons, right? For the reasons that Allah has blessed us with, and Rasulullah has given us directions. As for permissible actions which do not benefit a person in his worldly life or hereafter, such as playing and joking and that which violates respectability, marwah, and it is better for a Muslim to leave them because they waste his precious time in that which he was not created for and will be taken for. Okay, this is what they are saying, that we cannot be joking, cannot be playing, but playing, yes, we are allowed to be with the family members. As you remember, I can't remember one of the Sahabas, Hanzla, I think his name. He was with Rasulullah SAW, and Rasulullah was talking about the next world, about Islam, and they were all crying and thinking of the next one and everything. When he went back, he was like joking with his family and talking and conversing with his family and everything. And he felt worried because he thought he was a munafiq, and he went and consulted. And then he met a few other friends who also felt that they were munafiqs, they were hypocrites, right, in front of Rasulullah, keep thinking of the next one, and then after that go to the family. But Rasulullah actually, right, was explained to them that that's the way life is, right? But not too much of that. That's very important, and so much so that you fun, play, until you don't have much time to even read the Quran or even learn up your religion. So he says it's better. He doesn't force you. It's better because this is a waste of time which was not created for and will be taken for account for. Remember, we will be taken account of the time. So we have wal asri to remind us of the movement of time. Excessive speech is of no concern and can lead the Muslim into unlawful speech. Talk. Sometimes we talk to our friend. We don't even, after we leave the gathering, we don't even know what we say because it's nonsense, right? We talk nonsense, things just that concern us, and sometimes we end up lying, sometimes we end up flattering, sometimes we end up gossiping, and lots of things. It is therefore parts of a Muslim manners to avoid tumult and prattle and delving into every bit of gossip. Try to avoid any situations that will cause unhappiness. At-Tirmidhi has related from Mu'adh that he said, Ya Rasulullah, will we be taken to task for everything we say? Rasulullah SAW replied, may your mother be bereaved of you, O Mu'adh. This is the way they are saying, to respect. Are people thrown down on their nostrils in the fire for anything other than what their tongues reaped? That means they are punished because of what they say. As also related, Rasulullah SAW said, the speech of the children of Adam is against them, not for them. Apart from enjoying the right, forbidding the wrong, and the remembrance of Allah. So these are the only things that is for you when you ask people to do good, when you stop people from doing bad, and you do your zikr, remembrance of Allah, these are good for you. Other than that, they're going to cause destruction to you. So the hadith instructs that it is from a Muslim's attribute to be occupied with noble matters and to be removed from trivial, petty affairs. It also contains discipline and rectification for the soul from vices and shortcomings and leaving that which is of no use or benefit. All right, so we'll stop there. Take a short break. Continue with
least you can do with these blessings is that you don't use them to disobey Allah. Be used in a way that's pleasing to the one who gave you those blessings. And in the month of Allah is the perfect opportunity to run back to Him. So, as I said, the least you can do with these blessings is that you don't use them to disobey Allah. If you want to go one step higher than that, is that you use these blessings in a way that is pleasing to Allah. And if you want to be like Sayyidah Maryam's mother, Muharraran, you use these blessings with no connection to you whatsoever. You give every single one of it back to Allah. We see with Sayyiduna Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when the time came, right, for the Battle of Tabuk, and they were asking for people to give He gave everything. That is muharrara. So much so that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, what did you leave for your family? He said, I left them Allah and His Messenger. That is how people of Allah give to Allah. Those who are true to their covenant with Allah. And in this month of Allah, it's a reminder for all of us. Let us look at all our blessings, whether it's free time, whether it's good health, whether it is wealth, whether it is knowledge, whatever it is that Allah has given you. How are you using that blessing to serve Allah? Okay, we have the best of examples in the Messenger of Allah. He was told to tell us, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِيَ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say, indeed my sacrifice, indeed my prayers, my sacrifice, my life, my death, all belongs to Allah. And that's our role model. So of all the things that Allah has given us, how much of it are we spending for? And we know that if we spend it, if Allah accepts it, Allah says, إِلَيْهِ يَصْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُ. Upon Him ascends good words, and as for righteous actions, He raises it. Shaykh Ibrahim Niyas, in explaining this hadith, he says, when Allah accepts a righteous action, He attributes it to Himself. When Allah accepts it, you even forget that you've done it. So you see this house, all the people, for example, that strove to build this place, this house is not called theirs. It's called the house of Allah, right? So Allah has attributed this to His place. Ismail and Ibrahim alayhim as-salam, when they built the Kaaba, right? Who calls the Kaaba Bayt Ismail or Bayt Ibrahim? No one. What do we call it? Baytullah. That's a sign of an accepted action. So that when we do these actions, when we use our free time, when we do whatever it is, our wealth, and we give it for the sake of Allah, let us not attribute it to ourselves. Let us give it completely to Allah. And look at the examples of Allah's friends, where whatever Allah gives them, they give back to Him. May Allah make us people who hear something and take the best of it. May Allah make us people who hear a speech and take the best of it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أيها المسلمون اعلموا أن الله أمرنا بأمر عظيم بدأ فيه بنفسه وثنى بالملائكة القدس وثلث بالمؤمنين من جنه وإنسه. فقال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا مجيب الدعوات. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه وأعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك ولا تجعلنا يا مولانا من الغافلين. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها وأنت مولاها. اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل صالح يقربنا إلى حبك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك، ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك، ومن اليقين ما تهون علينا مصائب الدنيا، ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وأبصارنا أبدا ما أبقيتنا. اللهم ارزقنا قناعة، اللهم ارزقنا القناعة، اللهم ارزقنا القناعة يا أرحم الراحمين، واجعلنا من عبادك المخلصين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.
Right, we have a short one just to continue off from what he says. His talks are quite interesting. We do khutbahs nowadays because khutbahs are much more lighter on us. We will continue with Surah Sabah. Last lesson, we didn't manage to do Surah Sabah. Somehow, the previous last lesson's recording, I just managed to record for 1 hour only until part of until the end of this lesson on Ibn Taymiyyah. So I don't know what happened. I didn't realize it also. Anyway, alhamdulillah, inshallah, this time I will have a full lesson. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 45 to 47 in the previous lesson. And Allah did not send them a book which they can read, nor a warner before Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So these people, they were not really aware of the Quran. They don't really have much experience, right, in divine revelation, because there was no divine revelation for centuries since the time of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. We were told in the Surah Al-A'la that Nabi Ibrahim had his own suhuf for Ibrahim wa Musa. So Musa also had his suhuf. Of course, for Musa we know it's Taurat, but Ibrahim we have lost that book of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But it tells us because Nabi Ibrahim sent Nabi Ismail to Mecca, and the people of Mecca, that's the last prophet that was there, Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. We have no news of any books to Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, so we're not going to see that. But so they are not aware of such books, and they do not have experience. They do not read it, nor did they have a prophet before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, centuries. Those before them rejected. So those before them, Allah has identified and has told us stories of many of these people who had the prophets, the warners with them, and they rejected the warner. But the Quraysh has not even a tenth of what was given to those before. What the Quraysh has is not even a tenth of what was given to those before. So here Allah is reminding the Quraysh that those people before them rejected, they were punished, stories were told, lots of stories, but the Quraysh is not as powerful as those nations, not even a tenth. That means what they have is nothing compared to what these other nations had. They did not Allah's messengers, and the consequence of Allah's disapproval was clear. So all these communities which Quraysh are aware of, the Lut, right, the Thamud, the people of the people of Aika, and then you've got the people of Ad, all these people were destroyed. Why? Because of the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they were much, much, much more powerful than the Quraysh. So dealing with the Quraysh won't be difficult with Allah. So Allah is warning them of the consequences of rejecting the prophets of Allah or the messenger Rasulullah at this particular point in time. Rasulullah were to request the people to ponder singly or in twos. We are informed that this instruction by Rasulullah is to allow them to think and to ponder. The whole idea is to ponder. And when you have too many of you, you can't really ponder well. So the maximum allowed to ponder is two. They should conclude that Rasulullah was not mad, he is a warner of a severe punishment. Right? So after they contemplate and on the verses of the Quran, of course, by this time, it's already about 11 years of verses from Rasulullah of the Quran being sent down. This is like 60 surahs already has come down, right, since the start of the mission of Rasulullah. So by now they should be quite familiar with the Quran itself. And of course, the delivery of the Quran in itself, its grammar and everything, it actually confounds them and also makes them realize that this is no ordinary speech. So if they are to ponder alone or in twos, they would actually come to the conclusion that Rasulullah was not mad and he is definitely a warner of a severe punishment. He, Sallallahu is to say that whatever reward he asks is for themselves. That means that whatever he asks from them is for them. If he asks them to stop treating people badly, it's for them, because eventually it's for their salvation in the next world and in this world. If he told them to be fair in business dealings, it's for them, it's not for him, right? If he told them to pray to Allah and not pray to all the idols, it's for them, not for him. So his reward is, where he's concerned, the reward is for Allah. They witness to all things. Allah witnesses everything, and Allah will reward him accordingly. He, Sallallahu is to tell them that this Rabb tells the truth. He is the great knower of the unseen. So Allah is the one who is the truth, and with him is the truth, and he is the knower of the unseen. All right, we continue. Qul, say, Inna Rabbi yaqdhifu bil haqq. Surely my Rabb, he hurls with the truth. Allamul ghuyub, the knower of the unseen. Right? He hurls with the truth. He is the knower of the unseen. Hurls, the word hurls. Qadafa. Strange use of word hurls. But here this is, surely my Rabb utters the truth, the great owner of knower of the unseen. So Qul is an instruction to Rasulullah sallallahu, supposed to tell them this. Inna, surely, emphasize, Rabbi, my Rabb. Sometimes he uses Rabbuka, sometimes you Rabbukum, but here it's Rabbi, just to isolate himself. He's referring to his Rabb, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yaqdhifu bil haqq, he hurls or he says with the truth. Yaqdhifu is derived from the qadafa, which means to throw from a far point. So that's why the translation puts it as hurls. There are different commentaries on this verse, which are, however, consistent with each other. There are. The first is that the purpose of hurls the truth is casting the content of the heavenly book and divine revelations upon the hearts of the divine prophets and the messengers of Allah, because as a result of being knower of the unseen, he knows the receptive hearts and chooses them and casts the revelation upon them so that it penetrates deeply into them. All right, so this is one opinion, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it as if it is throwing, right, from a far point. Of course, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which of course we do not give place and time and position for where he is, but he has sent it down into the hearts of those people who are receptive. Thus, his statement is not unlike the tradition which says, the knowledge is a light from Allah, casts it into the heart of the one he pleases heart. So it is not unlike, means it is just what it has been said in the hadith, which says that the knowledge is a light from Allah, cast it into, is a knowledge that Allah, the knowledge is a light that Allah cast it into the heart of the one he pleases. Whomever Allah loves, Allah will bless him with divine knowledge. And it said the knowledge is a light for that person, and Allah is the one who has caused it to enter the heart of that person. He cast it. Some others have said that it means casting the truth on the falsehood and knocking down the wrong by the truth. So that is another look at this particular verse, right? To remove the truth, give it a forceful forceful thrust away from, to knock it down completely. That is, the truth has such a power that it removes all the barriers out of its way, and none is able to stand against it. So it is a threat against the opponents. They might not rise against the Quran and know the legitimacy of the Quran will defeat them. So it's a threat against the opponents that they might not rise against the Quran and know that the legitimacy of the Quran will defeat them. So it is a warning, right? Those people who try to fight against the Quran, to destroy the Quran, to mock the Quran, right? They will not be able to defeat the Quran, because the Quran is the truth, and the truth will destroy the falsehood. This is as in Surah Al-Anbiya, which says, بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل فيدمغه فإذا هو زاهق, which means nay, or rather, but we hurl the truth against falsehood so that it breaks out its brain, and behold, falsehood vanishes away. So the use of yaqdhifu here is the penetration of the legitimacy of the Quran in both near and far points of the world, and pointing to this fact that finally this heavenly revelation will be worldly and its light will light everywhere. That means it will be cast far and wide, right? Every single corner of the earth will receive the message of the Quran. Allamul ghuyub, knower of the unseen. This is, right? So ghuyub, unseen. There's so many unseens around us. We are not the knower of the unseens. Allah is the knower of the unseens. It is like a missile whose trajectory penetrates what others would not be possible to penetrate. The one who hurls it is Allah, who has full knowledge of all that is beyond the reach of people's perception. When he hurls it, he is fully aware of what takes place. No goal is hidden from him, and no shield or fortification can stop what he hurls. So if Allah wants to send the truth to any community, wants to send the truth to anyone, no one can do anything. And those who are unseen will also receive the truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those people whom we are not aware of, where they are, how they are, even among the jinns also, they do receive the truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It also gives an argument from the attributes of Allah in favor of the court of justice in deciding between truth and falsehood. So because Allah knows, right, the unseen, so Allah is, of course, the best of judges, who knows everything and is all wise. The Rabb of this universe knows everything found in it. Nothing is hidden from him. Qul ja'al haqqu wa ma yubdi'ul batilu wa ma yu'idu. Qul, say, has come the truth. So has come the truth, and not it originates the falsehood. Right, and not it originates the falsehood. The falsehood shall vanish, batil, and shall not come back, and not it repeats. A little bit of translation difference here. And not it originates. Badi is bada'a is actually beginning. That means it doesn't cause the beginning of the falsehood, and it will not repeat, and not it repeats. Comes back. So Allah says the truth has come. Actually, the words and destroyed in falsehood is suppressed but understood, and destroyed in falsehood. And the verse directs the Prophet ﷺ to tell his naive addressees that since the truth has now come to them in the form of the Quran, its arrival has signaled the destruction of falsehood they have been worshipping. That is, of course, their worship of the falsehood exists in their worship of the many gods, in their creation of the many taboos. Like, for example, we've gone to Surah Al-An'am, the various ideas that they have formulated, the various religious rites, about sacrificing to their gods and what it means, and then of the various kinds of animals that they have put rulings on, animals with calves and things like that. All these things are falsehood. All those using the arrows to divide to foretell things, using birds and things like that. All this hocus pocus, all this superstition are all falsehood. So Islam has come down to remove all form of falsehood, to destroy all form of falsehood. If they still continue to cling to it, they will be ruined. Truth has come now come in one of its forms, in the message embodied in the Quran, and it's straight path. So this is the truth, right? In many forms are the truth, but it has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the truth. The Prophet is ordered here to declare the coming of the truth. Qul, say, right? So it's an instruction to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ja al-haq, the truth has come. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is ordered here to declare the coming of the truth, strong, overpowering, rising high, and imposing its authority. Wa ma yubdi'ul batil, and the falsehood will not be originated, or will not be created, and not it returned. The points to the transcend nature of falsehood. This world was initiated by its creator on the truth. Hence, it is essential that it end on the truth as well. Falsehood had no role in its initiation, thus it has no role in its culmination. So at the beginning, falsehood is not there to start to create truth. The truth and falsehood are separate entities, right? The falsehood is not needed to create truth. Truth is on by itself, right? And it has no role to increase truth. So there is nothing, falsehood has nothing to do with truth. Hence, people who are spending their lives who are relying on the hypothetical, the deities, should bear in mind that their deities neither have any authority in initiating a thing nor making it reach its end. Right? So whatever falsehood they have cannot start off anything, nor can it be repeated, nor can it be culminating again and again and again. The idolaters of Arabia would not associate anyone in the creation of the universe. However, they believe that if ever the hereafter comes, then they shall return to their deities who they worship. So when the Arabs of Arabia are concerned, they prayed to many gods, and they actually give certain kind of authority to their gods and sovereignty to their gods. However, they have always they have this belief that the creator of the universe is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one creates the universe except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah knows this is their belief, and that is why there are verses in the Quran in which Allah would ask them, who is the creator of the heavens and the earth? And they would answer, Allah. But where the hereafter is concerned, they have this belief that their gods will come. They will go back to their gods, and the gods will be there to help them out in the next one, right? So this is actually some kind of a fear that is in human beings. Human beings from day one, Adam salam, are aware of the reality of life on earth, that it's not going to be forever, that they're going to die. And somehow, with the messages that Allah has sent down through various prophets, the message is very clear that your life on earth is not only for this earth. You will be questioned on how you use the various faculties. You will be raised up again after you die in the next world. You will meet Allah. You have a creator, and He is Allah. And you will be questioned concerning how you lead your life. Not only will you be questioned, you will also be punished if you do not obey your God and you do not do things as He has commanded you to. Right? So, along the way, some of these communities decided not to believe in the next one because it's easier that way. They don't want to be accountable for their actions. But some of them has come up with some kind of God that would help them in the next one, right? And where the Arabs are concerned, their gods are mostly angels, whom they have said are daughters of God. we've gone through that also, so that they are attributing some kind of characteristics, their own characteristics, right, to God. It's very strange, as Allah has also pointed out, that they don't like daughters, and yet they attribute daughters to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, they get very angry if they have a daughter, and yet they attribute daughters to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they even come to believe that these daughters are favorites of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so these are angels. So they pray to the daughters so that the daughters in the next world will come up with a good word for them, and they'll be saved, because these daughters would so talk to Allah, who's their father, and will cause them to be acquitted of all their sins and put them into heaven. So that's their very strange mentality they have, right? So Allah is saying, not the batil does not begin, and the batil does not continue. So these deities, through intercession before Allah, will win for them a high status there. The Quran has refuted this misconception of theirs at various instances. It asks them, when they do not regard anyone to be God's partner when he started creation and created his universe, why do they ascribe partners to him when he will recreate? Thus, falsehood can do nothing against the truth, and he has no function before it. Neither a new function, which is initiator, nor a repeated function, because its plans are entirely destroyed. And that is just why it cannot cover the light of truth and wipe out its effects from the memories. So he's saying that the truth is here, the truth has come, right? The falsehood cannot initiate anything against the truth. So that is why it's called initiator or originator. Initiator would be a better word. And falsehood cannot repeat to destroy truth. All right. The Quran, the divine revelation, and the whole teachings of Islam are all gathered in the concept of the truth. And polytheism, paganism, misguidance, injustice, sin, satanic temptations, and tyrannical primordial innovations are all simply compiled in the meaning of falsehood. So you have on one side, the divine revelation and teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the truth. On the other side, we have polytheism, we've got paganism, we've got misguidance, we've got injustice, sin, satanic temptations, tyrannical primordial innovations. That means ideas and rulings that are rather tyrannical. They are all under falsehood. The logical and scientific sovereignty is different from practical and executive sovereignty. Whatever relates to Allah is sending the truth. And that which relates to us is action and executing the truth. So Allah, where Allah is concerned, He has sent down the truth. The truth has come to us. For us, it is to act on the truth and to execute on the truth. Somehow the same idea. To work on the truth, to act and to work on the truth, execute the truth, right? This is what we practically did not perform. And most of us have not been able to do this very thing of accepting the truth and acting on the truth. Yes, the return of the health of a sick person depends on the correct prescription and consuming its medicine. Or one of them is a duty of physician and the other is a duty of the sick person. So the physician diagnoses the problem of the patient and he decides on the medication to give the patient. But the duty of the patient is to take the medication. If he doesn't, then he will not be cured. Then in order to make clear that whatever he says is from the side of Allah and that the entire guidance is from Him and that there happens no mistake in the divine revelation, right? To make clear whatever he says is from Allah and that the entire guidance is from Him, that there happens no mistake in the divine revelation. So that to make it clear that everything is the truth is from Allah and that the guidance is from Allah and there is no mistake in the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no falsehood is in the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. falsehood is done for. It has no life of its own and nowhere to function. It is destined for a miserable end. This is indeed the case. Ever since the Quran was revealed, the truth has been established on solid foundations. No matter, we have gone through the different eras of Islam and how many groups of people were trying to destroy the truth in the teachings of Rasulullah. But then Allah will always send some people who would bring back the truth, right? And people would follow the truth. Compared with its clarity and power, falsehood is nothing more than a futile argument which is known to be so. Falsehood may appear to triumph in certain situations, but this is not a victory over the truth, but rather over the people who claim loyalty to it. It's a triumph of people, not principles. So people who are subdued by falsehood, who are duped into believing falsehood to be the truth, right? It is not that the falsehood has destroyed the truth, but that the people are the one who has caused the falsehood to triumph, and not that the falsehood in itself is able to be triumphant over the truth. Such a victory is temporary, not permanent. Truth remains the same, clear and simple. When Rasulullah entered Al-Masjid al-Haram on the day of the conquest of Mecca and found those idols standing around the Kaaba, he started to hit the idols with his bow, reciting, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَاهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلُ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. And he said, the truth has come and the falsehood has vanished. Surely the falsehood is ever bound to vanish. And it says, قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَمَا يُبْدِئُ الْبَاطِلُ وَمَا يُعِيدُ. The truth has come and the falsehood can neither create anything nor resurrect. And not it creates, nor the falsehood creates, and not it repeats. And that means the falsehood cannot create nor resurrect. All right, so this hadith was recorded by Bukhari, Muslim, At-Tirmidhi, and An-Nasa'i. Very strong, powerful hadith of the entering of Rasulullah, the entrance of Rasulullah into Mecca, the conquest of Mecca. قُلْ إِن ضَلَلْتُ فَإِنَّمَا أَضِلُّ عَلَى نَفْسِي. Say, if I strayed, then only that I stray against myself. وَإِنِ اهْتَدَيْتُ, and if I am guided, فَبِمَا يُوحِي إِلَيَّ رَبِّي, then with what reveals to me my Rabb. Then with what reveals to me my Rabb. إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ قَرِيبٌ, but surely he is all hearing and all near. Sami'un Qareeb. All right. Allah again asked Rasulullah to say, now this is a very, very powerful words. When Allah asks him to say, people are aware that it is not from his words. He is being asked to say, if I was astray, in dalaltu fa innama, then only that I stray against myself, or ala nafsi, right, against my soul. I'm the one who loses if I stray. So he starts off with straying first. This verse warns his people through the tongue of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He should tell them that if he has been led astray as they think, well, they always think that he has been duped by the jinn, or he has been possessed by jinn, as he's not doing things right because he has gone against their religion. That only he only will bear the consequences, and they will remain safe because they are not supporting his stance. So if he is considered astray, then he will suffer the consequences of him straying. And if I am guided, I was guided, Fabima, then by that revealed to me by my Rabb. So if I'm guided, then whatever I am guided by is by what Allah has revealed to me. However, there is an aspect on which they must deeply reflect. If the Prophet ﷺ is rightly guided, then his guidance has been acquired from the revelations which Allah is sending to him. In this case, denying him should not be an ordinary thing. So he's saying, once he said this, right, he has already established the fact that he has revelations from his Rabb. And he is guided by the revelation from his Rabb. The guidance is given, and he has chosen to take the guidance of the revelation from whatever revelation that his Rabb has sent him. Right, so he says that this guidance has been acquired from the revelation, and in this case, deny him would not be an ordinary thing. That means it's not the right thing to deny him because he gets guidance from the Rabb. They will be regarded someone who have denied Allah's revelations, and the fate that such people meet and will meet is no ordinary matter. So they will be. It is a warning to them that if they do not follow him because he has guidance from his Rabb, then they will suffer the consequences of those who go against the guidance from their Rabb. The implication is that they should fully contemplate the consequences of this denial. So whoever goes astray does so by himself. As Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, when he was asked about some issue, he said, I will say what I think, and if it's correct, then it is from Allah, and if it's wrong, then it's from me and from the shaitan. Now, Allah and his messenger have nothing to do with it. So this is opinion of his, right? So he's an opinion. So if you think it's right, then it's from Allah. But if whether you think it's right or not, it's not important. Whatever, if the message in itself or the opinion that he gives is a good message, then that message is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means Allah has given him the thoughts and the inspiration to actually understand the message correctly. But if the message that he interprets wrong, then it's from himself, the own desires, whatever his thoughts, or the shaitan. Innahu sami'un qarib, surely he is all hearing and all close. Qarib, right? So in looking at himself, now Rasulullah doesn't look at them, but he looked at himself and he talks about his condition. Now, if I am astray, then the straying is against myself. So understood, the word straying means you are not on the right path, you have done wrong. Right? So you will suffer the consequences of your wrong actions. But if I am guided, let's use the word I'm guided, then whatever it is, I'm guided by the revelation from my Rabb. Right? And he, my Rabb, surely, and emphasizes, surely he, my Rabb, he is all hearing. He hears and knows everything that I say, everything all of you say, right? And he's very close to me. And I know he is there for me because he's close to me. Disrespect trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Arguing anymore with these people is fruitless. So just let go. That's it. You can do whatever you want to do. Allah hears what I do. Allah hears what I say. Right? You can say whatever you want to say. Allah hears what I say. Allah knows exactly what I say. And he's close to me. The Prophet ﷺ has told them that these are the last words which he will convey to them, after which he will consign his matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are neither prepared to listen to what he says, nor ready to come near him. Yet it's Rabb who listens to him and is also near him. So instead of wasting time with them, he would rather earnestly converse with Allah who hears and listens. And Nasai recorded a hadith of Abu Musa, which also appears in the two Sahihs. Innakum la tad'una asamma wala ghaiban. Innama tad'una sami'an qariban mujiba. Surely you call upon one who is deaf or absent. You are calling upon one who is all hearer, all close, and all responsive. Qaribam mujiba. The word sami'. The all hearing, the ever listening. The one who's hearing and attention comprehends everything. Now we must understand that this description of Allah is the all hearing. It has a human understanding of the word hearing. But the hearing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be described because because Allah is unlike anything. So it is just to tell us that He is there and is aware of whatever we see. Right? So whose hearing and attention comprehends everything, who pays attention to every supplication and invocation. And so we talk about Allah as As-Sami', right? We are aware that Allah hears our dua, hears our call, hears our pleas. The one who listens to every voice, so that makes it stronger for us to go to ask him, Ya Sami', Ya Alim, Ya Sami', Ya Basir, seeing. The one who hears and accepts every word, thought, and secret. So he hears. Even in your mind, you say things, you have worries in your minds, Allah hears. Even in your heart, right? The one who listens to everything, or behind closed doors, you say things, Allah hears. The one who listens to everything perfectly, eternally, without limitation. So you can't attribute that to years. He doesn't have years to listen with. So we don't give him parts of our body, right? His hearing is beyond our understanding. His hearing is limitless. It is perfect. He is everything and eternally. And so it's just a term, it's what they call versus mutashabihat. That means it resembles your understanding of hearing, but actually how it is done, you can't ever perceive it. You will never know it. So this is how those who responded to the Prophet's call and believed in his message felt Allah's presence. They felt his interaction with them. They felt him near to them, listening to what they said, taking direct care of their affairs. Their complaints and appeals went directly to him, and he did not overlook them or give them to someone else to deal with. So Allah is there for you, all for you. This made them aware that they lived under Allah's supervision, close to him and receiving his care and kindness. This they felt in reality, not as an abstract notion or representation of an idea. Was real fact, he is hearing and ever near. So from this verse, some people have argued that according to the Prophet to eat Rasulullah also could go astray, rather used to go astray. And this is what Allah has made the Prophet himself say, if I am to stray, then only that I stray against my soul. And if I am to be guided in whatever was revealed to me by my Rabb. So by this wrong interpretation, the unjust people in fact want to prove that the Holy Prophet's life was, Allah forbid, the combination of guidance and error. It is an if situation, if you are able to see that. It is not that Rasulullah was misguided. Even when he was not a prophet, he was guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has always hated the act of bowing down to the idols in Kaaba, right? And he was true, doing things right, but it's just that he doesn't have directions. Okay? So that's why Surah Duha, right? Allah says, we find you lost, right? Because he's lost. He doesn't know where to go, no direction, right? And Allah guided him. So this is a situational statement by Rasulullah. Allah has made him confess this before the disbelievers. Also, one should adopt his obedience completely, taking him to be wholly on right guidance. Right, so this wrong interpretation, some people say this unjust people in fact want to prove that the Prophet ﷺ was, Allah forbid, a combination of guidance and error, and Allah had made him confess this before the disbelievers, or else one should adopt his obedience completely, taking him to be wholly on right guidance. So this is the interpretation of people who doesn't want people, as we know, they do mock the verses of the Quran and make use of the verses of the Quran. And you see, Rasulullah himself says that he is misguided. So you cannot take him completely. Yes, there are times when he's guided, but at times when he's misguided. If he's misguided, he's saying that, well, if I'm misguided, then too bad lah. It's against myself. So they turn it around. And if I'm guided, then whatever I am guided by is from Allah. So they don't see it in the light of a powerful indication that he is saying that the guidance that he has is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever considers this in its correct context will know that the words, if I have gone astray, does not mean that the Prophet ﷺ actually went astray, but it means if I have gone astray, as you accuse me, and my claim to prophethood and my disinvitation to Tawhid are of the same deviation. So you are saying that I'm astray. So in the instant that you say I'm astray, right? So if the reality is I'm astray, then the burden of my going astray will be on me alone. You will not be held responsible for it. But if I am on right guidance, as in fact I am, it is because I received revelation from my Rabb, by virtue of which I've obtained the knowledge of the guidance. My Rabb is near and is hearing everything. He hears me, he's close, I've got no worries, right? He knows exactly what I'm doing because he hears exactly what I say. He knows whether I have gone astray or on right guidance from him. All right, we'll stop here. Allahumma. And this is Rajab. It's good to recite this zikr 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening. This is already the Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'tu a'udzu bika min syarri ma sana'tu abu laka bi ni'matika alayya wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa anta. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Rabbi 'allimna alladhi yanfa'una. Rabbi faqihna wa faqih ahlana wa qarabatin lana fi dinina ma'a ahli al-qutri unsa wa zakah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-'asri innal insana lafi khusr ila allazina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.